Okay, when you log into Command, you're going to be brought to the home screen. And the first step in the workflow is creating what's called an opportunity, which is your transaction file. Some of you may already know this, but we're still going to go over some things just in case certain individuals on the call don't know. So to create an opportunity, you can either go to the contact record or you can go to the opportunities dashboard. So it works the same either way. If you haven't created your contact within the system, you can start in the contact section, or you can go directly to opportunities, which is the handshake icon. So if we click on opportunities, we're going to be brought into the dashboard that shows all of your existing opportunities and pipelines. So in here, what you can do is you're going to click on create opportunity on the upper right. Now Zoom might be covering up if there's any photos or anything on the upper right hand side, it might be covering up where it says create opportunity. It's a blue or teal colored button that says create opportunity. You're going to click on there and you're going to fill in this opportunity form. Anything with a red asterisk is required. So you're going to fill in all of the information as much as possible. And the more information you put in, the better, because this actually transfers over to your Docusign account to the details. So it would mean less information you have to enter in later on. So in here, the Market Center is going to default to Pocono because that is the office that all of you are out of. It doesn't matter which business center or mega agent office that you're out of, it would be under the umbrella of Pocono. So we're going to leave that as Pocono. And then the opportunity type, well, it depends on the transaction. If you're working on a listing with sellers, you're going to select listing. If it's a buyer, you're going to select buyer, and then landlord or tenant. So you just want to select the right transaction or opportunity type. If you select the wrong one, you actually have to come back and create a new opportunity. There's no way to change that once you click on this create button down at the bottom. So if you select a buyer, but you're actually working on a listing, you want to create a new opportunity because you'll have the right checklist items. And we'll get to the checklist in a few minutes. So for this example, we'll just go with listing. Then the client name, you're going to go in here and you can start typing in the person's name. And then it should populate. If they don't exist in your database yet, you can click on add new contact and add them in at this point. So we're going to select Mickey Mouse because this will be his transaction. If there's a co-seller or co-buyer, you can add them in at this point. Works the same way as you start typing their name. If they don't appear, you can click on add new contact and add them in. For this example, we won't have a co-seller or co-buyer. So then from there, you're going to go through and you can add custom tags. You can add an estimated close date, the time frame for which they want to close, an estimated listing price. You can add the commission rate. So this is just your part, your side of the transaction. If you have the other side, you'll create a second opportunity for the other part of the transaction. So in this example, we'll just say we're going to do the commission rate at 3%. You can update this information later. Then you're going to see the phase and the stage. This would be where are you in the pipeline? So see those pipelines in the background here? This is where you are in the pipeline. So if you want to move people through the pipeline, you can update these phases and stages at any point. And then the only other most important part in this opportunity form, and then we'll move forward, is the opportunity name. It should always be the property address. It will default to the client's name -listing or -buyer. You do want to update that to the property address. If you don't, the compliance team is going to return your opportunity because it needs to be the address. It's the easiest, fastest way for the broker team to access your opportunities if need be. In a buyer situation, we know that there might be a delay in updating this because you may not know what property they're purchasing yet. So you can leave it as the client's name and move forward. So before we move forward, I know this is a Docusign class, but this is the first step in getting to Docusign. So we're creating the opportunity or transaction file to put it in the filing cabinet within Command. So do you have any questions on creating the opportunity using this form? All right, we're gonna go forward. So we're gonna click on Create down at the bottom. When you click on Create, it shouldn't say something went wrong. And I was on a class this morning and that kept happening to someone. So let's see what happens. 1 second, guys. We're going to refresh, see what's going on. All right. Let me go into Mickey Mouse's contact and just pull up that opportunity quick. So if you want to locate an opportunity, you can go directly to the contact record for that individual, and you'll be able to click on opportunities on the right, and you'll be able to see any opportunities that you've created for them. And there is a link, which is the name of the opportunity. So when you hover over the name, it creates a link and you can click on that and go into the opportunity. So there's 2 ways to access the opportunities. There we go. So what should happen after you click create opportunity on that opportunity form is you should be brought to the details tab of that specific opportunity. So since I'm working on Mickey Mouse's file, I'm not going to see John Jones information on Mickey Mouse's file. So now in here, this details tab is really important. You want to make sure you fill in as much as possible. So you want to click on these pencils and you want to go in and edit the information. The reason you want to do that, again, the more information you're putting in here, the better, because it does sync over to the details within Docusign. So less information you'll have to do on the back end. So you're going to go through, click on these pencils, and you can edit any of the key information, property, key dates, etc. So if I go into the key information, I can go through and fill in additional info, including dates, that will filter over. And just always make sure you save at the bottom if you make any changes. Now, to the meat of this class, the reason we're here, we're going to get into Docusign. So you're going to click on Documents up at the top. When you click on Documents, you first, if you're just coming into this transaction, just creating it, you have to click on Pick Checklist Type because it could be a residential home or it could be land. So you want to make sure you're selecting the right checklist so you know what documents the office needs to review. So for this example, we're going to say it's a residential home. So from the checklist, we're going to select residential. It will then build out those checklists that you need to follow and upload these documents. Now this part will come later. You're not going to upload anything now. The reason we have these checklists is so you know what to expect, what documents you need. And later, you'll have to come back and upload those fully executed documents into the checklist for compliance review. That's in the Prep to Get Paid class, which we had last month, and there's a recording on the YouTube channel. So now, all of you are saying, great, well, how do I get to my documents and fill them in? So now at this point, what you're going to do after you pick the checklist type, you're going to click on Start a Transaction on the upper right. And when you click on Start a Transaction, if you have Docusign and Dotloop connected, you'll see both. If you just have Docusign, it will launch into Docusign. So in this example, I'm going to select Docusign. And what should happen is a new tab should open, and it creates the Docusign room for the transaction. So again, this specific room is for Mickey Mouse. We're not going to see John Jones information in here. You're working on the file for Mickey Mouse. Any questions so far on how I got to this point? Because we're always starting in Command to create the file and then going over to Docusign or Dotloop. Today it's Docusign. All right. Remember, guys, feel free to type in the chat or unmute any questions at all. So when we get to this point, you're going to see that you're brought to the Documents tab. This is where you can either upload documents if you have PDF versions on your computer, or you can add documents with this blue button on the upper right. Now in here, there's also details and other tabs you can work on. So before even adding the documents into the Documents tab, you'll want to navigate to the Details section. You want to navigate here because you want to make sure all of the information is filled in from Command. Because remember I said that it would sync over. The more you put in there, the better. You want to make sure it actually worked and the information is there. If you see anything missing, so if you go through and maybe the second seller, the buyer, any information is missing, you can go in and click on Edit, and you can edit the information and add additional information in here. If you notice something is misspelled or you put the incorrect email address, you can go through and edit that information at this point too. If you make any changes to the details here, make sure you save at the bottom. If you don't save and you click back to a different tab, it doesn't update. It doesn't autosave. Unfortunately, there are not many places within Docusign or Command that autosave. So make sure you are saving early and often and getting everything in there. So then we're going to save if we made any changes. And now we're going to navigate back to Documents. When we navigate back to Documents, well, I need blank Docusign forms that I can fill in to send to my clients. So what I'm going to do is I clicked on Documents and I'm going to click on Add on the upper right. How do you change your email address when using Docusign? Great question. So we'll go over that in a second. That's actually in your settings. And sometimes it will take a couple of days to update. I know that sounds strange, but it does take a little bit, but we'll go over the settings in just a few minutes. So hold tight, we'll get there. So when you click on Add, then you're going to click on DocuSign Forms. If this is your first time ever logging into DocuSign and you are just initially getting set up, you're actually going to have a screen that will show Realtor, and you have to select Realtor and connect your NERDS number or NRDS number into the system. That way you have access to all of the PAR, the Pennsylvania Association of Realtor forms. If for any reason that is happening to any of you, feel free to reach out to me and I can assist. It's not easy to do on this screen, but I can certainly assist one-on-one. So reach out to me if you have run into any issues. So when you click on Add DocuSign Forms, you're navigating into the fillable versions of the forms. So in here, you're going to see that the office has created preset packets for you. So if you're working with a buyer, there's the buyer packet, listing packet, or rental packet. Then below, there are libraries that you can go to with our internal forms or the PAR forms. For the most part, you're going to use the preset packets because they have the built-in checklist. It follows the checklist that's in Command. If for any reason you need a one-off document, maybe you're in the coaching program and Cassie, David, or Bob tell you you need this document for this transaction, and you cannot locate it within the packet, you're going to go to the library, and you'll go to the PAR library and you'll search for the document. But that's if there's a one-off document you need. For the most part, you're going to see all the documents you need within the preset packets. So in the beginning, we decided this was a listing. So we're going to go into the listing packet. But before I proceed, does anyone have questions about how we got to this point to bring documents into our rooms? All right, we're going to keep going then. So when we click on listing packet, because again, we decided this was a listing, you can either go through each of the forms, so you can scroll through, and then to the left of the form, you can check the box to select it to bring it into your room. You can also select all up at the top. So next to name, you can select all and it will bring all of the documents in. If you just need one specific document that you're searching for, in each of the packets and the libraries, there is a search field where you can type in the name of the document. So you can go up here and you can start typing it in and then select it. So you have 3 different ways that you can bring those documents in. Everyone does it differently, so I can't tell you the best way to do it. It's just when you get in here and start deciding what to do, you'll figure out what best practices are for you. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to select a couple of documents so that we can add them into our room. When you do that, you're going to see up at the top that I've selected 2. So I can add selected. When you do that, you're going to see that the documents have been added in. Now, typically you should see a preview of the document. DocuSign has this thing where you have to refresh the page to see the preview. So you want to refresh the page. And then what should happen is you should see the preview of the documents. These are fillable forms. So in here, there's a blue and white icon on them, and that would indicate it's a fillable form. If it were a PDF, it would be white and red. If it were a signed document, it would have a green check mark to indicate that it's been signed. So there's a couple different icons on these forms that will tell you how to navigate through and see what kind of form they are. But we added in the fillable versions. So now we want to select each form. So we're going to click on the form to select it and open it. So we're going to start with the consumer notice. We're going to click on it. It will open up the document. And because I just loaded them in, it does take a second. So then when you're in the form, you're going to scroll down, and I'm in Cassie's account. So if you notice Cassie's name, that's why. But when you go in, you're going to see your client's name under consumer name. Maybe you forgot the second consumer, or for some reason you found out way later and you want to add them now. You can actually type in these fields. These are the fillable versions. So you can go in and you can start typing in the person's name. You'll notice that there are no initial, signature, or date boxes on these forms. That is because you can either print these forms later or send via electronic signature in an envelope. And we'll get to that in a couple minutes. So you'll also need to add in your license number. So you're just going to go in and you're typing in the information. Any of these fields, you'll see that as you hover over them, they have a tooltip that tells you what needs to be entered into that field. So if you ever go to save and it gives you an error message, maybe you put the zip code where the state should be, and it will indicate what the error message is, and you would just navigate to that field. So you're filling in the forms at this point. Some of you are waiting until you get to the envelope to fill them in. Don't do that. You're spending a lot more time when you get to the envelope to do that. Do it right here when you're in the Documents tab. And then once you fill it in, again, there is no autosave, so make sure you're clicking on Save and Close. For an agreement of sale, if you're working on an agreement of sale, every other page, I would recommend saving and closing and going back in. If there's a power outage or an internet outage, you could lose all that information because there is no autosave. So make sure you're saving and closing often, especially for a larger document like the agreement of sale. Now we're going to go into the next document. Does anybody have questions about how we added these documents in or how we're filling them in? Okay, so we're going to go to the next document. Oops, I think there's something in the chat. So great question, KW Albrightsville. If you want anything to autofill, meaning any of your contact information, your license number, your office information, if you're out of one of the business centers, you actually have to create templates within Docusign for that information to autofill. It does not autofill from your profile. You have to create those templates. And if time allows, we will try and go into templates as well. So now in here, we're going to go to the next document. We're going to click on the listing contract. So you're just going from document to fill them in. So you're clicking directly on the document, it opens up, and then you're going to go through and you're going to fill in everything to the best of your ability. So you're going to go through, and if you don't see the client's names, if you don't see their mailing address, if you don't see the property address, you're going to type in directly in the documents. So you're going to fill in everything you can. I'm not going to go through and fill in everything today, but you're going to fill in all the fields that you can. Again, you'll notice there are no initial, signature, or date boxes. Again, that's on purpose because you can either download and print them or send via an envelope for electronic signature. So you're going to fill everything in. And a lot of information will also start to populate as you filled it in your details section or in different documents. Because as you fill in the documents, it backfills to your details page and fills in all of the documents. Then you're going to save and close. So now you have successfully filled in the documents. Does anyone have questions about filling in the documents? Always do it on the Documents tab within Docusign. You will save yourself time. All right. If you are in the coaching program, at this point, you would need to download the documents and then send them to Cassie, David, and Bob for review. You're going to email them separately from Docusign. You're downloading the documents and then sending them out. But let's say any agent that's on here, you want to download these, print them, and bring them with you to an appointment. You're going to select the documents, so you can check the box on the upper left-hand side, and then this bar will open up, this toolbar, and you're going to download them. I would not just print them. I get this question a lot. I would not just use the print feature because sometimes it will cut off the signature lines at the bottom of the pages. So I would download them first and then print them. So then from there, when you click on download, it will generate a PDF and you'll click download here and see, I mentioned earlier, the white and the red icon. That's what indicates a PDF. So then you'll download it and then you can print it from there. So if you wanted to download and print them, then you can bring them to an appointment. But let's say your client doesn't want to meet up again to sign the documents. They just want them sent electronically so that they can sign, initial, and date them and review them. So at that point, you're ready to create what's called an envelope. An envelope is how you send it for electronic signature. So what you can do at this point, you can either select each individual document, or on the upper right, there's a select all button. You're going to select all. And then on the toolbar here, you're going to click on the pen where it says create envelope. A lot of people are bypassing this step, and I cannot stress enough, you're giving yourself more work if you bypass this. Do not just go and click on envelopes up at the top. You're going to select the documents on the Documents tab, and then you're going to click on this pen to create the envelope. And I'll show you why in a second. You're going to select who's who. So who needs to sign and review these documents? Well, you as the agent will eventually need to sign. So you're going to select Listing Agent. If there's a co-listing agent, you're going to select Listing Agent too. And then depending upon how many sellers or buyers there are, you're going to select seller 1, 2, 3, or however many there are. So for right now, you're going to just select Listing Agent and Seller 1. And then we're going to click Continue. And the reason for this, the system is going to place the initial signature and date boxes in the places they need to be because we went in this direction. If we had just clicked on envelopes, it would not be there. You would have to place all those fields. Select the documents when you're on the Documents tab, click on the pen to create the envelope, select the individuals that need to sign, and click Continue. When you click Continue, it'll think. It will bring you into the envelope. You can see the documents that you've added in. If you notice that, oh, I didn't want to add this document in. If you hover over it, there's a small X that you can remove it, or you forgot to add a document. You can click on Upload, and it's going to be Add Room Docs because it's within the room in Docusign. But if those are the documents that you need, then you're good. And then you're going to add the recipients. But wait, they're already there. If you've been going to the Envelopes tab, this would not be the case. This would all be blank and you have to fill it in. By clicking on that pen, you're able to go in and see that they're already there. Now, if you notice that there's a misspelling or the email address has been updated or is incorrect, you can go into these fields and make any corrections that you need. So if I go in, and I change the email address, it will update here so that I can send it to the correct email. What you'll also notice is there is a signing order. So right now it would go to the listing agent first because there's this 1 to the left of it, and then the seller would receive it second. I would recommend deselecting the set signing order so that everyone receives the documents at once. If you don't, you may want to rearrange who receives the documents in what order. because you, as the agent, would want the documents after the client signs and initials so that you can make sure that everything is initialed and signed in the correct places. But honestly, unless it's a difficult seller or buyer, I would just deselect set signing order. So Robin, can you expand on what you mean? If you change something, does it save? Do you mean back in
Yeah.
the details?
So like if you had to change the email address for Mickey Mouse,
Hmm.
does it automatically save back to what you had before?
Great question. It does not. You have
Okay.
to go back to the details and or command to update it.
But for here, it would go to him at that address.
Exactly, yes. But if
Okay.
you create another envelope, it
Hmm.
wouldn't be there. It would be the old email address.
Okay.
Great question. Thank you. So then if you deselect set signing order, everyone will receive the documents at once. So husband and wife can sign at any point, agent can sign at any point. Then when it's fully executed, you'll get the fully signed versions. So then we're going to scroll down. If there's an additional recipient that maybe you just found out about, oh no, this other person's on the deed, you can go to add recipient and you can actually manually add them in. If you're doing that at this point, you'll have to manually add the signature, initial, and date boxes where you need them. What you'll also notice, there is a drop down here that says needs to sign. You can change that. So if someone just needs to view the documents, you can go in and you can change the information. So in-person signer receives a copy, needs to view, you can change this. For the most part, it's going to be needs to sign. Then you're going to scroll down and just like any email message, you can add a message in here. If it's a husband and wife and you want to send separate messages to each one, you can create a custom email and language for each recipient. And then you would put in the subject. Maybe you don't want it to be complete with Docusign PAR consumer notice. Maybe you want it to be documents to sign for 123 Fake Street. And you can enter a message in here. So if there's something you further wanted to explain to them, maybe you explained it on the phone to them, but you wanted to expand on it, you can add that email message in there. Then you're going to scroll down and we're going to click on next. But before I do you guys have any questions on adding documents, adding recipients, adding a message? All right, we're moving forward. We're going to click on next. And in here, this is your last chance to verify that all of the documents are correct. They've been filled in correctly. Everything is spelled correctly. The initial signature and date boxes are where they need to be. Over on the left-hand side, what you're going to notice is there are standard fields. These standard fields, you can actually take and grab and place them in the different sections of the documents. And you also have a drop-down menu where you can select each individual. So if you needed for the consumer, you can select Mickey Mouse and grab a signature field for them. Or if you as the agent need a signature, date, initial field, you can select it from here. So you can change who it is that you need that field for. Now, typically you wouldn't need that because as you're going through, we're going to scroll through and we're going to verify that those date fields and signature fields are where you need them to be. But oh no, I remembered Minnie Mouse actually isn't going to be on this transaction. So I'm going to click on it and remove it. Because even though we filled it in the details tab, we can also in the documents update it, but at this point we can update the text as well. So if you forgot anything, these fields are fillable. You can go in and change or fill in the information. So again, this is just your last chance to verify everything's right. So you're combing through and just making sure that signature, date, information, everything is correct. So we're going to go through. Oh no, I forgot to put my office license number. Let me type that in now. And then we're going to scroll down and we're going to make sure that the initials are where they need to be. So as you can see, they automatically were put where they needed to be. If you were clicking on envelopes in the past, don't do it anymore because it's all right there for you when you click on that pen. So then when you scroll through, you're just verifying that those initial signature and date fields are where they need to be. Now, let's say you get to this point and for some unknown reason, there's a Docusign glitch and that seller signature, that field didn't get put there. No big deal. All you have to do is go to this drop down menu and you're going to select the individual that you need that signature field for. And you're going to take that signature field and drag it where you need it to be. And you can make it larger or smaller based on the area that you need that signature field in. Just like if you needed text, you can go to the standard fields and you can add in text. Then, if everything looks good, at that point you're ready to send the documents. But before we do you guys have any questions on anything that we filled in or any of the standard fields or any of this information? Okay, so now at this point, you're ready to click on send, but you can also, so clicking on send, it will send within a few minutes to the clients and any of the recipients based on the signing order that you selected. Now you can also send later. Maybe your client says to you, hey, can you send those documents to me at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock tonight? And you don't have time to remember to do it later. You can actually click on the arrow and send later. And you can choose the date and time when you're sending these documents. So now when we click on send, it will refresh the page because it's sending the documents. And you'll be brought back to the envelope section where it will either say needs my signature, which means you as the agent will need to sign the documents, waiting on others, which means you're waiting for the clients to sign, completed, which means all parties have signed, and see what's the other draft. So the other one is draft, and what draft means is you never click send, so you actually have to click through and click send to send it off to them. When the completed versions are done, you're going to see them completed in your Documents tab. So what I'm going to do real quick, just off camera, I'm going to sign those documents just so you guys can see what that looks like. Just bear with me 1 second, guys, and feel free type in the chat or unmute if anybody has questions as I'm quickly doing this. So now that the client has signed, you as the agent will still need to sign. You'll get an email notification, but you can also come into this envelope where it says needs my signature. You can click on here and you can actually click on sign and go through and sign the documents as well right in here. So when you click through, you're going to click start and then you're going to go through and you're just going to click where you need to initial. And as you're doing that, as the agent, you should be verifying that you're seeing the initial signatures and dates all where they need to be for the client. And then you're going to click finish. When you do that, should bring you back. There we go. So see how now it says completed, guys? What's going to happen if I go over to documents, and sometimes it takes a couple minutes because they're finalizing the documents. What you should see, I'm going to keep refreshing. Come on. You should see the fully executed. Okay, so now you're going to see multiple versions of the same document. You still have your template type versions, which are the fillable forms that have that blue and white icon. But now you also have the green and white, which are the signed versions. So now at this point, those signed versions, when you have fully executed documents, you're going back to Command to upload them. But we're not going to worry about that today. So that is how you get through the process of from start to finish. You're starting in Command, you're creating the opportunity, then you're going into Docusign, you're editing the details if need be, you're adding the documents in, the fillable versions, You're sending them via the envelope by clicking on each document and clicking on the pen on the toolbar, adding in the recipients, and then in the envelope, you're making sure that all the date, signature, initial fields, everything's where they need to be, correcting any of the text, and then you're sending it to the client for signature, and then you will need to sign as well. So that's the easiest, fastest way to go through the process of Docusign. Now, I know oftentimes there might be a glitch, an error message that pops up within Docusign. It happens in Dotloop, it happens in zip forms. Technology is great when it works, but every now and then we do get error messages. If that happens when you're creating the envelope, create a new envelope or try and go to a different browser window because a link could have gotten messed up in the process and you might just need a new envelope. If you run into Docusign error messages, feel free to reach out to me. If I've seen them before, I'll help in any way I can. If I've never seen it before, we might need to report it to KW support. Doesn't happen all the time, but I always like to put that disclaimer out there that if you run into a glitch, just let me know. Now, earlier, Zeta asked about how to update your email address within Docusign. You can update any of your information within your profile in Command, and I'll show you how to get to your profile in there, but there's also a profile and preferences within Docusign. So in Docusign, you can either click on your picture or your initials on the upper right-hand side, and when you go in, there's either Manage Profile or Preferences. So if we go into Manage Profile, it sometimes makes you log back in, so we'll see if it does. It's thinking. So on this page, you can go through and you can click on Update if you wanted to change your email address. If you ever notice that your name is misspelled for any reason, you can also go in and update it there. Then you'll notice your contact information. If you notice that your cell phone number is incorrect, you can update that information here as well by clicking on Update. Keep in mind, every now and then, like I said earlier, it does take possibly 24 hours, if not more, to update for some reason. We're hoping Docusign gets that corrected soon, but right now we just have to wait until it's updated. Now, also, if you're in the system and for some reason your NAR, your realtor profile, is not connected, I'm going to show you how to get there as well. Okay, Zeta, great question. We're going to do that in 1 second. I'm going to show you how to either delete or archive any documents in here. So when you click on your name on the upper right, your initials or your picture, you can go into preferences here. So this is for anyone if your profile is not connected for any reason. You can go into preferences, and again, your contact info will show here. And if you want to add in the logo or any other information, you can. But if you go down to integrations, you can actually make sure your National Association of Realtor profile is connected. And if it isn't, if you just see company forms, you're going to click on add provider and then select realtor and put in your NRDS or NERDS number. And there's actually a feature in there. There's a link that you can click on to search what your NRDS is because most people don't know what it is off the top of their head. So that's just if you need to get your information updated in your profile or if you need to connect the provider to access all of the PAR forms. So now Zeta brought up a great question. So I'm going to go back into the room. Just bear with me. There we go. So let's say you're working, you're practicing documents, but you want to archive some documents or delete them. I highly recommend not deleting any documents because every now and then you'll make a mistake and you'll delete something that you didn't mean to. And once you delete within Docusign, you cannot retrieve it. So if you select a document that you want to remove, you're going to select it on the upper left, or if there's multiple and you want to select all, you can. But you can select the document by checking the box on the upper left. And then that toolbar will open up. What you'll see is if you hover over them, you can copy the document, you can move the document to a different Docusign room, you can email. This email feature is not great. A lot of people don't receive the document if you try and do it that way. If you're in the coaching program, do not try and use this to send the documents to David, Cassie, or Bob. It doesn't work properly. They won't be able to open them, or they might not even receive it. There's the print option. There's that create envelope, which everyone should use from now on. There's the download, and then the last two are archive and delete. Why they put them right next to each other, I don't know, because people often click delete by mistake. But anyway, so if you select the document on the upper left, that document is now selected, and you can archive it by clicking on archive, and it will ask you, okay, do you want to archive? You're going to click on archive, and then it will be in your archives. So instead of active documents, you can go to your archive documents. So you'll see it under those archive documents. Now, if you want to unarchive, you can either right click on it or you can select the document, and then right here, what was archive is now unarchive. You can click on it and it will move it back to your active documents. Now, if you permanently want to get rid of a document, if you don't want it in this room at all anymore, it's a dead deal, it never really went anywhere, and you don't want those documents there, you can select the document and you can click on this trash can. When you click on the trash can, you have one more opportunity before you click on delete. It's saying, do you really want to delete it? And then you can click delete and it will remove it completely. You cannot recover that document. So be very careful with what you're doing. I would recommend archiving. I just have to put that disclaimer out there. I would archive any documents. I would never delete. Any questions on any of that information? A big question I get all the time is I really want to have blank forms that I can print out if I'm going to an appointment and I just quickly need a document. The easiest, fastest way to create a blank forms room, you're not even going to need to go to command to do this, guys. You would go directly to rooms.docusign.com. So if you ever quickly need documents, you can bypass command if you've already created the opportunity. But in this instance, we don't need to create an opportunity because we just need a blank consumer notice, blank listing contract, blank agreement of sale, whatever it might be. Glenn, unfortunately, that's a great question. You can, sorry to backtrack, but you can delete signed documents. And that is why I always recommend don't use the delete feature. I wish they never even implemented that. That was a newer feature last year that they implemented. And you can delete signed documents, guys. So I would archive documents. I would not delete. Great question, Glenn. Thank you for asking that. So now, let's say you wanted to create that blank forms room. You can go to rooms.docusign.com, and I want to let all of you know, if you go directly to docusign.com, that is the incorrect DocuSign because KW's version that you pay in your monthly invoices for is rooms.docusign.com. If you try and go to docusign.com, it will tell you that you need to purchase or that you don't have enough rooms available and different things like that. Go to rooms.docusign.com. Now in here, if I wanted to create a blank forms room, I can go to rooms up at the top. When I click on rooms, there is this button that says new on the upper right. When I click on new, it will bring me to a screen to create a new room. So in here, you can name the room. So if I wanted to do blank documents, it will be my blank documents room. So it's blank documents. The room role would be agent owner. That defaults, you're going to leave it as is. Your side, you could do listing, buy, it doesn't actually matter. You can add all of the documents anyway to this blank documents room. So we're just going to say this is list side, but we're going to add all the documents in it anyway. So once you do that, then you're going to click save. So for anybody that is a little lost, because I know this can get a little confusing, we went to rooms.docusign.com to create that blank forms room so that if you quickly need any type of document, a walkthrough form, anything like that, you can quickly grab it. So once you create the room, so we filled in the information, we're going to click Save. When you click on Save, it's going to bring you in just like it does at certain points to the details section. We don't need to fill anything in. We don't want any information to autofill to these documents. We just want a simple blank document. With the exception if you want your info to populate there, you can fill it in, but you don't need to. Then you're going to click on Documents, and in here, we're going to add in those blank forms. So just like we did before, we're going to click on Add Docusign Forms, and we're going to go through and we're going to select if it's a listing, we're going to click on Listing. I would select all because this is a blank forms room that you can quickly access. We're going to select all and Add Selected. It's going to add all of those listing docs in there. Well, Colleen, the problem is though, how do I differentiate between listing and buyer docs? You can create separate folders within this room, and you can create separate folders in any room. So in here, there's an Actions button where you can create a new folder by clicking on Add Folder. So now we have a listing docs folder. So I'm going to select all, and I'm going to move those documents into my listing folder. Should have been the first one. Well, it's making a liar out of me because what you should be. There we go. Okay. So if you click on folder in current room, then you can select the listing docs and move all those documents into a preset listing document folder. Then we can create another folder and make it buyer docs. And now we have a buyer document folder where we can add Docusign forms for those fillable forms and do a buyer packet, select all. What you'll notice is some of them already say in use because they're under the listing docs. And then you're going to add selected. And now all those documents go into your general room docs. So we're going to select the ones we want to move over. And maybe it's not all of them. Maybe you just want to move some. You're going to select them and you're going to move them to the buyer doc folder. Folder in the current room, buyer docs, move. So you can organize your business. So in every room, you can create different folders for active listing docs, terminated files. So if one deal terminates when it's under contract, you could have a separate folder for that, and then create a new folder for the new buyer docs or the new under contract. But all of these are blank. The reason I did this was because oftentimes all agents are looking for blank documents. So I would create a blank documents room so you can quickly access them. And when you click on them, you'd be able to go in and just see the blank information, and you can print these to bring with you to an appointment. So this is not the section that you create templates in. So the way to create templates, great question, Robin. So what you're going to do, so that's blank documents. Before I move forward, does anyone have questions on the blank document section? Okay, so now if you want to create templates, you can go to rooms.docusign.com and you're going to click on, so it will say dashboard, rooms, inbox, and my documents. You're going to click on my documents. When you click on my documents, you're going to create a new template. So right over here, it's a white button or a gray button. It's hard to tell on my screen, but if you go over here to new template, you're going to go in and you're going to select, well, what type of template? Okay, we need to select the DocuSign form library or a packet. So let's say we want the packet and it's in the listing packet and we want to use the listing contract. You can actually search for listing contract and select it, and you're going to click use. So again, I clicked on My Documents, then New Template, then in Select Form, you're going to either select Docusign Form Packet or you're going to select the Docusign Form Library, and then you're going to navigate to the packet or library that you're trying to use the form in. Then you're going to select the document, click on Use, and you have to go into each individual document to create these templates. So you're going to open it up. It's trying to load the document. And this is where you're going to go in and you're going to fill in all the brokerage information, the licensee information, and this goes for any form. You're going to fill it in fully at this point. So let's say we go through and we type in all of the information and pretend I filled in everything because I'm not going to go through and fill it all in, but you're going to fill in all the information and then you can rename the template. So if you want it to be new listing contract, let's say, and then you're going to check off, you're going to click on the check or circled check, and it will save the name of the document and then save and close. Once you have those templates created, then you can apply the template to a document. So I'm going to go back to Mickey Mouse's template so you can see what I'm talking about. So if I'm going to go back into the opportunity and I'm going to go to the transaction. So it goes into Mickey Mouse's transaction so we can apply that form template that we created. So in here, you can either click on Add Docusign Forms, and you can go into the listing contract to it. I'm going to say in use. All right, I'm trying a different one. I already added that one in. I'm going to create a new one. And it went into the... One sec, guys. I'm just trying to get into one so I can show you how to apply a template that you created. All right, so if I go in, all right, so let's say I want to apply that listing contract template. So when I select that document to add it in, under the template column, you're going to see that there's a drop down because you already created it. I've created it a couple times, but when you rename it and everything, you'll see the name that you selected. You're going to select that one and then add selected, and it will apply that form template. So every bit of broker information, agent information will auto-populate into the form. So I haven't done anything with this document. So if I click on it, what should be filled in is Keller Williams Real Estate where we put it in. And some of the information will also autofill from command. So you'll see that some of the information autofilled. But to create that template, or any templates for consumer notice, agreement of sale, anything, you can go to My Documents and then you can click on New Template and create your templates. So I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, please let me know. We do have to jump off in a minute because the other class is going to start and we're going to get kicked off. But does anyone have questions on Docusign? And I will do another class very soon so that we can dive deeper into some of the other features as well. But does anyone have any questions about anything that we went over? Thank you, Robin. Thank you, everyone, for jumping on. I really appreciate it. Any questions that come up, even after you jump off, please call me, text me, email me, let me know what you need. I'm happy to do a one-on-one appointment as well. But I will have more classes like this so that we can dive deeper and make it easier when you're using the system. But reach out if you need anything. Jump on the other class that's starting right now, and I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you all.